It's a battle of the smartphones that we already reviewed, and interestingly, they have some features that are the same with each other. But the question is, who will reign supreme? Well, we'll find out in this video. Hey guys, James here from Tech M.N.O, and here's our head-to-head comparison between the Vivo Y31 and the Poco M3. Before we begin, I would like to put a disclaimer that the reviews and this comparison video is not sponsored by the brands or anyone else. The opinions here are mine only and there's no additional input and early preview given to them. Now that's out of the way, let's start our head-to-head comparison. Alright, I will give the rules first before we start our first round. This comparison video we have for the Y31 and the Poco M3 consists of 7 rounds. Design and build, display, performance, software, camera, battery, and lastly, charging. The pricing will not be a part of the round here, thus putting it on my final conclusion. And speaking of conclusion, I would also like to address that this in advance that even though the particular phone won on that specific round, it doesn't mean the other phone is not good too. Take this as a guide and the final purchase decision will still be in your hands. Are we good? Awesome! Let's start round 1. Design and build is our first round. Let's begin with the Y31. The back design of this phone takes inspiration from its bigger siblings, the V21 series. Its camera bump and design is the same, showcasing its big sensor for the phone. Also, a big highlight here is gorgeous gradient back color that they call ocean blue. Like what I said in my review, Vivo really nailed how to combine colors that's loud and gender inclusive with its chic, stylish, and youth-oriented designs. But what's kind of disappointing is even though it's a matte finish, it's still prone to smudges and fingerprints as you can see here. So using the including clear case is necessary. Now, we will move the spotlight to the Poco M3's design. First thing you will see is the two finish design of the smartphone. Mine is in the power black color and you will see the 1/4 of the back is glossy and the others are faux leather. It's really grippy to hold of its texture. What I didn't like in the M3's back, it's prone to oily or sweaty palm stains even if the you got is a color black. On the glossy part, it kind of reminds me of the camera module of the Mi 11 Ultra, but to be honest with you, I like this design at first, but as the months went by, I kind of hate it because it can collect smudges and fingerprints too, and it's kind of weird that Poco puts this design just to be unique. You know, it's my opinion only. So, in this round, since they both have great strengths and worse weaknesses, plus they have using same polycarbonate plastic on their back and chassis, I'll call this a tie since I both love the leather design and gradient colors for a phone. Plus, given the fact that seeing a metal chassis in the budget and mid-range phones are a rarity in this price range. In the end, it will depend on your taste what you will pick. We are now in round 2 and we are talking about displays of these two phones. While both phones are rocking IPS displays, 60Hz panels, and they are in the 1080p maximum resolution, they have differences. Starting with the Y31. Display size is a little bit larger than the M3 by 0.5 inches, plus a bigger display to-body ratio, higher pixels per inch, display resolution, and smaller chin at the bottom of the phone. But what stands out on the Y31 is the display brightness and color accuracy, especially in direct sunlight. The Y31 blew the M3 out of the water here. It has a P3 wide color gamut for richer colors when it plays video or just casually browsing on some IG photos. But what the Poco M3 has that the Y31 is lacking is its display glass protection. It comes with Corning Gorilla Glass 3 for more scratch resistance and for your phone's safety, while the Y31 doesn't have that. Plus, since the Poco M3 screen is smaller, it has also smaller aspect ratio that the users with small hands can use because of its not so slightly tall display body. So, for this round, it's quite a close call, but I will still choose the Y31 for its high brightness outdoors and wide color feature for watching content compared to the M3's inclusion of Gorilla Glass 3. Yes, I will put the tempered glass protector here, but just like Jerry Rig everything says, glass is glass and glass will break. The next category we will tackle is the performance. Side note first, the Poco M3 has a stereo speakers that are but much better than the Vivo Y31 single downward speaker. Going back, we will cross out the fact that both phones are rocking Qualcomm's mid-range octa-core chipset, the Snapdragon 662, and its Adreno 610 GPU. They also have the same storage type at UFS 2.1 and storage capacity of 128GB, even though Poco M3 has a 64GB variant too. What sets them apart is that the Vivo has doubled the RAM capacity of their Y31 at 8GB compared to M3's 4GB. Side note again, yes, I know that there's a 6GB RAM version for the Poco M3, but we only got 4 in the Philippines, so there's that. We will not tackle benchmarks here because it's not the real criteria on choosing a smartphone, but for a real day-to-day task, the Vivo Y31 shines through and through on whatever apps I put it on, and it can even remember the last thing I did on the app when my phone locks if I didn't use it for a certain amount of time, and it didn't have any lags and freezing issues. For the Poco M3, yes, it can go with daily tasks like scrolling and checking Facebook posts, but it suffers from resetting the game or refreshes the tabs I put on the browser, plus it has noticeable lags and freeze frames. We will check the reasons why in the next category. But for now, the clear winner is the Vivo Y31 in everything I throw on it. It really goes to show that 6GB of RAM is the new standard of Android phones now, and Vivo really puts the RAM capacity at its core in their phones. Before we tackle the next round, if you're enjoying this video right now, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit our bell button to get you notified when a brand new unboxing, review, or comparison video will come out on our channel. And finally, don't forget to follow me on my social media accounts at M.N.O because I will have a revamped giveaway for you there, so stay tuned on the post I will make on the mechanics. Alright, our next category is software. To be transparent to you, in this comparison, the software version I had for the Vivo Y31 is FunTouchOS version 11.1.12.4 on top of Android 11, while on the Poco M3, it recently upgraded to the MIUI version 12.5.2 on top of Android 11 also. Sorry guys, there's too many numbers here, do you have tissues? Moving on now, let's talk about the FunTouchOS. Like I mentioned in my review, I really like the cleaner, lighter, and stock-like nature of the UI. Yes, even though there's some included perks with software like themes and their own apps like the Music app and iManager app alongside Google's preloaded apps, I find it a little annoying that there's still bloatware in the UI. That said, however, it's easy to navigate and I didn't notice any slowdowns or bugs in the software, and they're almost on time sending Android security patches. Now, we will go to MIUI. And I have some thoughts. Even though I've been on its Android 10 version of MIUI before, I will not lie when I say that this MIUI on the phone is one hell of a heavy skin. Yes, there are many perks that I can get on the FunTouch, like dual apps on all apps I've downloaded, video toolbox, and floating app window to name a few. But what I hate about MIUI is its bloatware, just like FunTouch, ads on some Xiaomi apps, and most importantly, constant bugs that I notice every single time. Yes, they fixed the bug on the previous versions, but they are still new bugs now, or worse, issues after an update. Restrictions for third-party launchers to go home if I'm using the gesture mode. Heck, even Android bubble features can't goddamn fix it. For this round, Vivo's FunTouchOS is the clear winner here. It may have less features on its belt, but having monthly updates for security patches, I'm looking at you, Xiaomi, I'm having a much cleaner, more lighter UI. The Y31 is your choice if you want to have the easy-to-use smartphone without the heaviness of the UI skin. The next round is camera. While both phones have the same triple camera setup with two pesky camera alongside of it, they have different approaches to its camera science and algorithm. And to give them a photo comparison of being fair, they will have the same photo subject and be checked on my iPad Mini 5 for the final checking of the photos. On daytime shots like on this plan here, even though the photo from the Poco M3 is brighter, it's a little bit over-sharpened and oversaturated in the end result, plus the branch of this calamansi tree is a bit lighter in color. Compared to the Y31, the photo result is almost natural to the colors I see in my own eyes. Same result goes when the HDR mode is turned on, with an additional nitpick that the photo is blown out with too much light on the background. On this photo on the streets, we can still see the oversaturation and blown out backgrounds on the M3, while the Y31 gives much sharper details on the brown car that's been parked and its natural colors. On this shot here, even though the M3 has a good detail on the flower and the raindrops, the separation between it and the leaves on the background is not spot on. Compared to the Y31, it's the exact opposite. Better subject separation, but the detail is not perfect. Though I will commend Vivo for being accurate in colors here. HDR shot on the other hand, the Y31 provides a great bokeh in the background, but half the body of the leaves are included in the blurring. The M3 on the other hand has a sharper foreground but still suffers background separation. At night with minimal lighting, the Y31 has an equal distribution of focus on the details on the toothpick holder, while the M3 only picks up 2 more lines in detail, while the middle is not. When night mode is turned on, the Y31 still shines through the photos by adding lighting to the subject. But the M3, yes, it has more light, but it still suffers for the middle portion of the holder unfocus. When in the dark areas now, both of them are really poor quality and unusable, but quick shout out to the Y31 for still having almost great details. But when in night mode turned on, the M3 takes the lead with the much nicer lighting on the background compared to the Y31 that has a little flare and blown out on the background. Self-portraits on both rear and front, both phones have their own strengths and weaknesses shown here. The M3 has non-smoothing on my face, making it more natural, but my shirt here is almost desaturated, while the Y31 has a great detail in subject separation. However, my face is smoothed out like I had a foundation in it, even though I turned all of the effects turned off. Same results goes with the bokeh mode on for rear and front. The Y31 has great background to foreground separation, but again, face smoothing even I already turned it off. While on the M3, it has great and not too excessive bokeh creaminess, but areas of my hair have been blurred out. So, in this round, even though I like the Poco M3's results on selfies that doesn't have smoothing on my face and great detail, the other photo subjects have been dominated by the Y31, especially in the rear camera. I will pick the Y31 as a winner here, but do note that the preference will be different to yours, so you better research well before buying. Now, we will talk about the battery life on these phones. As a refresher, the Vivo Y31 has a 5000 mAh battery, while the Poco M3 has a monstrous 6000 mAh capacity. In context, both phones can last for more than a day if you will use it casually. However, while the Vivo Y31 has a great screen on time of my heavy use at 8 hours maximum, the Poco M3 stomps it hard at least 9 hours of screen on time with my use. And with that, the Poco M3 earns its first win in this round by a landslide. However, in the final round, which is in charging, both of them only have 18 watts of fast charging power, which is a little bit, especially on the M3, since they have beefy batteries on other phones that have at least 25 or 33 watts of charging. With the Vivo Y31, charging the phone to 0 to 100% takes 2 hours and 20 minutes, while the Poco M3 clocks in about 3 hours and 5 minutes on my charging observations. But keep in mind that the M3 has a bigger battery than the Y31, so put that in consideration. With that said, this round, it's a tie between two phones. Now, we are down to my final thoughts on the Vivo Y31 and the Poco M3, plus I will tell you who's this phone's for. But first, I'll talk pricing. First is the Vivo Y31. The launch price for this phone is 12,999 pesos for the 8128 model, which is the only configuration available. While the Poco M3 starts at 6,990 for the 464 model and 7,990 for the 4128 model configuration. With that said, from the processor and the performance of its 18-watt charging, I will recommend the Poco M3 for those people who want a bigger battery, great speaker setup for your video binging, and better screen protection against cracked screens. However, I won't recommend this phone to heavy gamers and multitaskers because it's only 4 gigs of RAM and the UI skin is so heavy and buggy the developer almost didn't care about their users. I will recommend the Vivo Y31 to those people who want a brighter and colorful displays even when using this outdoors, multitaskers but not totally heavy gamers, okay, who want smooth performance thanks to its double RAM and almost stock UI skin. And finally, it has a great camera performance, especially in daylight. But I can't recommend this to the people who want to watch videos, don't want smudges on their back screens, and finally to those people who can accidentally drop their phones every time. But again, the final decision will always be on your end. However, if you ask me what phone I will pick right now, I will go with the Y31. Great display, great design, good battery life, and good camera performance. And if you want to watch my review videos for both phones and my other devices, you can check my playlist right here or my previous video down here. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Again, my name is James, and I will see you guys on the next one.